What's up, Wargamers? Welcome back to World of Wargaming. I'm Isaiah, and today we're going to talk about some fall foliage. As the weather, at least in the great state of North Carolina, is beginning to change, and there's a crispness in the morning, but it's still hot as the devil in the afternoon. But as the seasons are changing, I would like to change up my tables a little bit and give myself a few more options for creating different environments on the tabletop. So today we're going to talk about taking some of these old cheap plastic tree armatures and turning them into these. Some beautiful fall foliage. So let's take a look at the things that we need and all that other good stuff. And before we do that, sorry, allow me to make a disclaimer for myself. This is definitely not the only way to go about doing this. There are a million different ways that you could tackle this. This is just the way that works best for me and for my needs and for the amount of time that I have to invest into the project. So remember, as with all things in our hobby, the right way to do it is the way that works best for you. All right, friends, welcome back once again to the DPS. That's the Dirty Paint Station, or in this case, Terrain Station. These are the things we need. There are some things here that are not really what I would normally use, and there are some things here that I learned through trial and error the last time I did this. So we need the trees, obviously. We need basing. I like to individually base trees, but if you would rather attach them to footprints or whatever you want, obviously that's totally up to you. We need some texture paint. This is just sand, paint, and glue. Now, normally here where I have this super glue and this catalyst, I would normally be using hot glue there, but I don't have any glue sticks as of being ready to record this. So we just adapt and overcome. We've got our flocking material. I got like 6 tubs this size from Amazon a while back for very, very little money, but it does smell absolutely horrible. So if you go that route if you see something like this on Amazon and it's like 6 different stacks to different colors, combinations and stuff, be aware it smells horrible. We need some tools, flush cutters, hobby blade, paintbrush, or whatever tool you want to use to spread the texture placed paste. I always use just a real cheap brush. And then we need a container to hold our glue. This is a blister pack that I found sitting on my table from some models that I recently finished, and it's going to be perfect to hold my glue. And then a larger container to hold the flock. And of course our glue. This is cheap glue. Don't buy cheap glue. Splurge for the Elmer's or better. But Elmer's is the bottom floor here. This stuff is awful. This was on the free table at work. Somebody at work bought it, and it was just horrible. So they didn't want to throw it away. So they left it on the Bermuda Triangle in our work area, where if you see something there and you want it, you just grab it. And I grabbed this, and it's absolutely horrible. I understand why they threw it away. And then parchment paper, because these things do tend to drip a little bit as they cure. So you need that to ensure that you don't get it stuck to your work surface. Unless you don't care or you're just willing to scrape it off later. I don't really care, but I don't want to scrape it off later, and this is also the table that I play on, so I don't want there to be lumps and bumps in it that are super big protrusions, as far as it might mess me up while I'm doing something. So let's start getting into prepping some of this stuff to get to going. The ones that have the spike coming off of them, once you snip those, you're going to make sure you check them with a blade to make sure that you have a nice large flat surface, not a big bump sticking up that's going to prevent you from getting a good seal or a good attachment point. With our pile of trees filled up, we are ready to start attaching these things to bases. This is going to be a long, arduous process. I'm not going to film this. We're just going to put some glue here, stick it down, hit it with some catalyst, move on. So we'll show you what it looks like when it's done. So we're going to turn this into this. So next move is going to be to add our proprietary blend. It's not. It's just dirt and paint and glue to all the bases. Normally when I base a model, I would be very careful to not get anything on the rim. However, when I do trees, I like to completely cover the rim so that it blends a little bit more seamlessly into the mat instead of having the black rims on the bases. So let's break out an old dirty cruddy paintbrush and get after it. So now that our trees are all dried, nice and rock solid, I highly recommend doing this before we do this because it's easier to be able to hold on to the tree while you put the base on. But once we flock this, you're not going to be wanting to handle that part an enormous amount. Now this is going to work very much like frying chicken. We got our wet, we got our dry, we got our place that we're going to set everything. I recommend putting it on parchment paper or wax paper is even better if you got it. Parchment paper is just what I had. Aluminum foil, saran wrap, just some kind of covering, a tray or a board that you use for priming, just so that it's not straight onto your table. It's not a huge deal to clean it up, but it is making an extra chore that we could otherwise avoid. So we're going to take this bad boy, our little drumstick, and we're just going to go into that glue. Get it good, gooped up coating. We don't want it to be neat because remember, some of it's going to drip off, so we want to get as much, oh no, maybe not that much. But we want to, and this is not great glue either that I have, and then we're just going to go right into our dry. Just mush it around. Give it a little shake, and then we're going to go to our pad. And we're just going to cycle through all of them as such. And at this point, we're back to playing the waiting game. Now, I know these look really good, nice and full. Now, we're going to lose a little bit of that to just the gravity. Gravity's going to pull some of that off for us. Now, that being said, certain frames styles of armature do tend to hold on it better. The ones where the branches are like fanned out, those tend to hold on to the glue and the foliage pretty well, whereas the ones that are just kind of very bare frames, there may be a better way to utilize those particular types of frames, like maybe using a spray adhesive or something that's not going to be quite as affected by gravity. But for results versus time and cost, I think this is the way that I normally go. I will probably end up doing another pack or two of frames for these autumn style trees because I want enough of them to be able to kind of fill up at least a 4x4 board. So I'll probably do 2 more packs of frames of these, and then later on as it starts to get colder towards the end of fall, I will start working on my wintertime trees. But for now, we wait. So we'll come back to this once everything is nice and dry, and we'll do our last little finishing up step or two. Okay, so here we are roughly 24 hours later, and we didn't lose as much to gravity as I thought we would. When I did the cherry blossoms, I lost a lot of the flock to gravity, but for the most part, these have held on pretty well. But we want to still make sure we get everything locked down. So that's where my secret weapon comes in. This is my secret weapon. This is hairspray. And you may ask yourself, Isaiah, what do you know about hairspray? You're bald as the day is long. Well, you see, I used to participate in a lot of beard and mustache competitions, and I did the freestyle competition. We'll throw a picture in here so you can see what that looks like. This is what I use to hold my beard in those awkward and odd positions. It is like one step below being a can of just straight up spray adhesive. I personally don't really like the actual like aerosol glue. I always end up with it stuck in my arm hair. It's I don't like it. It's just a huge mess, and it doesn't wash off easily, or as easily as I would like. 2 or 3 coats of this stuff will have everything absolutely locked in place, barring if you're going to be transporting it around, moving it around a whole bunch. My stuff really just moves from the shelf to the table and back to the shelf. If you're going to be transporting it, then you might want to look into an actual adhesive. But for just home use, this stuff works phenomenally.